Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good night. However and whenever you may be listening, thank you for stopping in once again to another fantabulous episode of the Take It Easy podcast. It is Tuesday, November 12th, everybody, and it was amazing last night. We'll get to that. First off, I want to start off, this is something that happened last week, but shout out to the dude on Reddit who analyzed that James Harden's game performances actually become more predictable and his play declines based on the strip clubs in each city. I think the thing I learned most from that is that somehow Salt Lake City has the third best strip clubs in the NBA. That was the most shocking. Unsurprisingly, Miami has the best, and we've had those concerns with Harden since the NBA Finals when he was on Houston. There is a beautiful orange moon right now that I'm staring at from Davis. It's phenomenal. Gotta love it. Speaking of gotta love it, that must-watch game, you know that one? Lived up to the billing. Despite the questionable play from all parties involved, it turned out to be a fantastic bleepin' football game. So let's analyze the X's and O's real quick, because I said on the podcast yesterday that a big part of the game was going to be what happened in the first quarter. And what happened in the first quarter was that the Niners got the ball first. And for some odd reason, the Niners just went straight pass right out the gate. I'm watching the broadcast, and I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you throwing the ball so much? The Seahawks front seven is depleted. And there are two ways he can go about that, because the Niners, that first drive ended in what should have been an interception, and then they ended up being fine anyways. But there's a weird horn going on. They threw an interception that ended up, they called it back, and then it ended in a long field goal, or a field goal after a long drive. And San Francisco threw the ball, I think, like 8 times on the drive and ran it 3. And I was honestly like, well, they got the ball first, and they had a chance to establish their way of playing. You know, bleed clock, 10-minute drive ending in a touchdown, the way Brady did against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Well, the other way to look at it is that the Seahawks game planned to just counter the run. They were not going to let the run beat them. They stacked the box, forced Jimmy G to make some passes, some errant passes in that first drive, but also convert 3rd and 10s the entire time to move the ball up the field. Another thing I had said as I'm watching it is that the Niners could theoretically just do whatever they want on offense and still be able to win, but they're not. I thought for sure they would just go with the heavy run, establish the tone on Seattle, and it would be their big way of getting the win. Ken Norton and the Seahawks defense, tip the cap to you for your performance last night, because the Seahawks defense allowed the game to be played on their own terms. They controlled and dictated tempo and then got the ball back to their offense, who in turn allow the Niners defense to control and dictate tempo. However, if it had been the other way around, this game would have been long over before. So, shout out, Seahawks defense is just the MVP of this game. Finally carried Russell Wilson instead of the other way around, even though at the end Russell Wilson did have to make the big plays to keep the offense at least relatively in play, because Wilson ended the game with his typical 25 for 32, this time a little less, I think 240-some yards, It was far from an MVP performance, yet he comes out looking better than he did before because, they just beat the Niners. For Jimmy G, it takes a special kind of game manager to pass the ball in a single game 46 times and end up with 248 passing yards. Jimmy G and Russell Wilson were literally doing Spider-Man memes with their stat lines. Wilson completed 24 passes for 232 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. Jimmy G completed 24 passes for 16 more yards, 248, 1 touchdown, and 1 INT. But it was all about the defenses. And it was also all about, the score was 21-10 going into the fourth quarter, and I'm sitting there telling people, do not get upset. The Niners are going to at least make this a game. This is not over by any measure. The Niners are going to go down and score a touchdown right now. They did. Then they're going to get the ball back. They're going to go down and score again at some point. They kicked a field goal. And then Seattle went down, and Seattle kicked a field goal with Jason Myers. Gave Jimmy G the ball back, 2-minute drill. Jimmy G made some magic happen. AKA, he just ran the 2-minute drill to perfection, and then the kicker, McLaughlin, didn't bleep it up. More on him as we progress throughout this, because he didn't bleep it up there in regulation. Then we get to overtime, and this is the questionable one, was Geno Smith's coin toss, because there is the video that has surfaced on the internet that Geno Smith called tails. Honestly, I'm hearing it sounds like hails, but he calls tails, ref says heads, lands on heads, Seahawks get the ball. Okay. Are we having a Jerome Bettis Thanksgiving moment? We didn't realize it till later on. And then Seattle gets it first, and I say to my friend sitting there, Russell Wilson's going to go down the field. He's going to win the game. He gets the ball first. He's going to go win the game. So, for some reason, Geno Smith called the coin toss. That's the other thing I forgot to mention. Very strange against Richard Sherman. He's not a captain, not anything. They just wanted Geno Smith to get involved. So, the joke now is that even Geno Smith couldn't get the coin toss right. So, Seattle gets it, goes right down the field. And then the most shocking thing imaginable happens. Russell Wilson breaks his 23 touchdown to 1 interception ratio and gets picked off at the goal line. Absolutely shocking. And what happens next with McLaughlin and the Niners having a chance to win and him kicking the ball into the tunnel? Go find the video. He kicked that field goal into the tunnel. It's something that's going to haunt Niners fans. And then I got pissed at Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. I got pissed at Schottenheimer, but also Russell Wilson for punting at the 50-yard line on a 4th and 2 with 2 minutes left in regulation, because I just assumed you're just going for the tie at this point. And that made me pissed off as a selfish sports fan. If you look at the numbers, it actually makes some sense. But as a selfish sports fan, I'm like, screw you for kicking a field goal or for punting with 2 minutes left in overtime. But then Jimmy G did the worst thing he could do. He threw 3 incomplete passes, gave the ball back to Seattle in 20 seconds. Russell Wilson scrambling out of the pocket. I mean, you can't let Russell Wilson run out of the pocket. It's basically like the second rule you game plan against going into the Seahawks game. Don't let Russell Wilson roll out of the pocket, and don't let Russell Wilson QB run out of the pocket. So, Jason Myers bangs home a field goal, and the broadcast was cruel as bleep. like making you think it went in and then putting the timeout up on the scoreboard. Like, they didn't wait. You didn't hear a whistle on the broadcast. You thought that kick was in, and then you turn around and you see the timeout icon flashing 5 seconds afterwards. That was like, oh, that was cruel. But Jason Myers proved he did not graduate from Cody Parkey University. He banged home the second one from 42. That's why they paid him all that money, made him the highest paid kicker in the NFL, was so he could bang home 42-yarders in the clutch, unlike he did against Tampa, and Russell Wilson had to bail him out. Motto of the Seahawks season had been 2019 Seattle Seahawks, bleep it, I'll do it myself, Russell Wilson. And now the defense helped bail him out for 1 week, and 1 week only. The Seahawks got it done. The Niners, did you really think you were the best team in the NFL? Come on. You're setting yourself up for disappointment in retrospect that way.